Music actually was something that came accidentally, honestly. My dad was a jazz musician, so I kind of grew up in a musical family. My mom was a dancer, uh, but ultimately, as time went on, music was more like a hobby. My dad was into jazz, so I never really liked jazz because I was forced to hear it all day, every day, horns. Like he was a percussionist though, so he was playing with the World Saxophone Quartet. Then he grew up doing, playing with James Brown and all these older, guys and George Benson and I grew up watching it, but it was all like jazz-based type of music. So now if I hear jazz, I like literally run out the room. I could not be around jazz. But as time went on and my English got a little better, I started to kind of relate more to hip hop. And as I started to become more into just kind of wandering off doing my own thing, the environments I used to find myself in, hip hop was very, was highly, active in those areas. So and then the more I started to understand English and what was being said, I kind of was easily relating to a lot of that stuff. So within the environment of which I was in at the time, dark skin wasn't really in style. So I was constantly being picked on or had the disadvantage when it came to the women. You know what I mean? And it got to the point where I had like this reputation for fighting, so they used to call me Ali. You know what I mean? So Ali was like, and it was only because I just felt uncomfortable and didn't want to be disrespected. And the only way I could really respond, because I couldn't really have a conversation, I just lashed out violently. You know what I'm saying? Because I was frustrated. I couldn't speak English, and when I spoke with an accent, it made it worse. It was just like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm about to fuck somebody up. It was one of those moments. So as time went on, I got the reputation for being that. And we normally in the hood, if you get a reputation for fighting, you make friends you ain't supposed to really make, because now you attach to the people that you really aren't really supposed to be attached to. They don't make things better. They only make things worse, right? So now my crowd around me of people that just say that I would have been better off not hanging with, because they only got me into more trouble. So then I got into, the street gangs type of situation, but not affiliation of a group, but more so from a car theft operation standpoint. Because in Jersey at that time, cars was really heavy. You know what I mean? So I was stealing cars, and I got into an operation to where I kind of understood how that actually worked with VIN numbers and car registrations and insurances and all of that. So I kind of took that same hustle to Atlanta. But when I got to Atlanta, I went to school there, and music came later, because when I was in Jersey, I had a barbershop there, and I also worked in one. The one I actually worked in was owned by a guy named Tone, and he introduced me to Wyclef. So I was writing and producing around that time. Even then, it was more like a hobby. So whenever I really was bored and didn't have nothing to do, I would just go to the Booger Basement, write over there, produce over there, hang out with the whole squad, from Clef to Price to to Lauren to Spider it was a whole family there, Jerry Wonder, and we was called the refugee camp. All of us was from different parts of the world. Nobody was American, and we all felt like we were just foreigners. You know what I mean? So the refugee camp became on the strength of just feeling like a refugee. But then we all had talent to give. So as time went on, I was still in the street while they was mainly focusing on the music. I was making actually really good money there. So that's why music wasn't really a focus. But then when I moved to Atlanta, moved the operation to Atlanta, it was a open virgin territory. So I got successful extremely fast. So I didn't know how and what to do with the money I was making. So my first instinct was like, okay, well, let me just invest in some recording studios. It's a cash business. That'd be perfect. So I opened up like 3 recording studios, built them out, and then that's how I would justify the money I was making. So everybody that came through, I would actually let them record for absolutely free. All you had to do was sign in, and it's hours you wanted to go in, and it was all yours. So I had every artist you could imagine that came out of Atlanta that recorded out of my recording studios. Like, you name them, they've been there. And the studio stayed busy. At certain hours would be like a dead time, I would say between 5 in the morning, between 4 in the morning to maybe 6 or 7. But then after that, so those are hours where I would use to go in there to actually record. I was the kind of person, I really didn't speak to too many people about my problems, so I would utilize those hours and speak about whatever I was dealing with, because that was my best way of venting without putting my business out there. So a lot of my experiences, I actually laid them down, in the studio. So as time went on, everybody was making demo tapes out of my studios, and I actually started getting record deals out of them. So it actually started making sense. So that gave relevancy and credibility to my studios. So as I got bigger, and eventually in an operation like that, something's going to go wrong, someone's going to get caught, and it's going to trickle down to me, of course. I ended up getting locked up. So when I got locked up, it kind of changed my whole spec of life and how it looked, because the environment I was in, I just didn't feel like this is something I wanted to be doing for the rest of my life. I had a cellmate in there who was actually on his transporting through DeKalb County on his way to the west side to to go to death row, and that scared the hell out of me, you know. So mind you, now I always had this habit of writing about things that I went through. So when I got locked up, that habit just followed me in jail, and I wrote about actually being locked up, and that's how that song actually came about. And then my cellmate, he was like, older OG cat, man. He was like, man, if you put as much energy as you did into the streets, into your music, there's no way you can't be successful. Like, you wrote this song, and now it was like just a cappella. It's something that we just sang every time the guards would come into the shifts change. So it was known, like it was locked up. They won't let me out, bitch. They won't. But I actually, because I had to make a song out of it, I took that little piece out, right? But every time a new guard made a shift, everybody would sing it. So it became like an anthem within the pods. So as soon as I came out, I actually wrote the actual song, recorded it, and all the other songs that I wrote while I was inside. And after talking to the OG, he was like, man, just focus on not getting back in trouble. Focus on taking all your energy that you got into the street and put it into your craft, put it into your music, put it into the gift that God gave you. And I really took his advice on that, and that's when I created Convict Music. And came out, recorded all the songs, and was like, okay, now I'm just gonna start moving. But I didn't have no connections. So I started calling all the favors. So everybody that recorded in my recording studio for free and got a record deal, I made a phone call to and featured on everybody's albums. Like everybody, majority, 80% of the people I featured on, that's rap artists, were people that recorded in my studio, and because of the result of that, was able to get a record deal. So I feel like they owed me one. And I just reached out to everybody. And that's how I ended up on almost 300 featurings by the time it was all over. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I got into the music. It was really the only outlet, because I didn't want to go back to what I was in. And I preferred to get rich doing the right thing than going back to the streets and getting caught up and not ever being in a position to have freedom again.